Do some more questions, like your homework questions here. I wrote two of them up on the board so I could take them both with this hopefully same diagram. X-axis, y-axis. One of the problems was, suppose that cosine t is 1/2 from t between 0 and pi over 2 radians. What is sine t? Well, first off, the first thing you need to think about is, where are we talking about? 0 and pi over 2 is here. This is in the first quadrant. And what the names of these quadrants and what's going on in these quadrants is going to start to become very important. Remember, from left to right, first quadrant, second, third, and fourth. So the cosine of some angle t, so now here's what we're going to do. I'm not even going to draw a circle right now. I'm going to draw some generic picture. I have no idea what t is. Here's t. I know that the cosine of t is 1/2. What does cosine mean? Cosine means this divided by this. So this has to be 1 and this has to be 2. And you're going to be doing this a lot, so I'm really going to try and make this clear. Once again, why is that? You know that cosine of some angle t is the x divided by whatever r is, the radial length. So there's a couple ways we can do this. The easiest thing is to just think that, well, if it's 1/2, this must be x, and this must be r, right? So what's this? Well, now we use Pythagorean's theorem. We know that in general, and until you get used to this, you might have to write this out a couple times. You know that r squared equals x squared plus y squared, or r is equal to the square root of these things. So how do you figure out what y is? Well, once again, if r squared equals x squared plus y squared, then r squared minus x squared, I subtract x squared from both sides, and we have r squared minus x squared equals y squared. We take the square root of both sides, and this is equal to y. And I need to figure out what y is. So this is going to be 2 squared minus 1 squared square root. This is the square root of 3 on a good day. Now I can figure out what sine of t is, because I know that sine of t is y divided by r equals y divided by r in general, and I've just figured out what y is. It's the square root of 3 and r is 2. This is the square root of 3 over 2. Hopefully in the first quadrant, I've said it a few times now, but so what is t? Hopefully you know that t is in fact pi over 3 degrees, or 60 degrees. Cosine of 60 degrees is 1/2. And this is also the same as pi over 3. As I say, it'd be good to be able to jump back and forth with these things in your mind, degrees and radians. So that's this first one. Let's do one more of these. Another problem is, that's in your assignment, or similar to it, is suppose that cosine t is 2 divided by the square root of 5, and it's in the third quadrant. What is sine of t? Okay, and so this is the procedure here. First thing is, let's figure out where it is. Third quadrant, 1, 2, 3, it's over here. So let's draw some generic kind of triangle right here. And now, remember, all the way around is t. However, we are using this picture, this triangle right here, to figure out our problem. Okay, so what do we know? We know that the cosine of t is 2 divided by the square root of 5. And I must have written something down wrong here. And okay, so this is actually, so I must have missed something in the book. I claim that this actually can't be true. That the cosine of t for any angle t can't be 2 over the square root of 5 in the third quadrant. Think about it for a second. Why? Well, this is x, this is the x, and this is r, right? In the third quadrant, here's the third quadrant, the x is negative. So this obviously must have been a -2, or it was supposed to be the fourth or second quadrant. This brings up an important point I wanted to talk to you about. One of the saving graces we professors say all the time is, I said A, I wrote B, and I meant C. It is absolutely the case that somewhere in these lectures, something will be wrong on the board, I'll miss a minus sign, I'll add wrong. You know this from class. These things happen. And it's really important that you don't get freaked out by it or let it throw you, like derail the train. I mean, these things just happen. Also, almost nobody knows this, but in the back of your books are the answers, of course. Sometimes they're wrong. I find them all the time. In the old days, you used to get $5 a piece if you were the first one to turn them in. I actually went to college with guys that made their living that way. That's how they supported themselves. So these things will happen, and it's just like this case. This is really good because this is something that you should be able to think about. If I say cosine in the third quadrant, hopefully you're going to start going, hey, this has to be, in this case, -2, right? Because this is the third quadrant. So in quadrant, actually, what did I say? I think I just misspoke too. So cosine is positive in the fourth and first quadrant. I think I called that the second quadrant. Here's 2, here's 3. Here's 4. So clearly, cosine, which is x divided by r is always going to be positive. In this case, it's positive square root of 5. Cosine over here is positive. Over here, it has to be negative. And the more you start to get a feel for this, the easier this stuff will get. But anyway, we're looking for sine t with this, and we'll make this negative, so this comes out right. Once again, I need to figure out what is this. We already figured it out. We know that in general, y is equal to r squared minus x squared square root. So in this case, y is equal to r squared is the square root of 5 squared. This is just 5 minus -2 squared is 4. Square root, this is 1. Now, is it positive or -1? See, we know that the length of this is 1. Is it positive or negative? And this is where the picture comes into play. I mean, technically, the answer to this is plus and minus the square root, because remember, the square root of y squared is the absolute value of y, which ends up putting that plus and minus in front of it. Incidentally, that's why, a little aside here, remember the square root function, the square root of 4 is 2. The square root of 4 is not plus or minus 2. Because if you have that, then this square root isn't a function anymore. It assigns one x value, two y values that are different. It's not a function. This plus and minus comes from the definition of square root of a function squared. For any function, whatever this is, squared, the square root of this is the absolute value of this. And this is where these plus and minus comes from. And I remember nobody ever explained that to me, and that used to drive me crazy. But it's possible that some of you were bored by it. Okay, so anyway, we have our picture, and the sine of this t is going to be y divided by r, so the sine of this t is going to be -1 over the square root of 5. And that's that. Okay, so in a second, we're going to go to another commercial break. Actually, at some point they might even put commercials in. I swear to God, commercials are in everything. You can't go anywhere without seeing commercials. I don't even want to be on a computer anymore because it's like somebody is trying to sell me something all the time. Oh, that's right, I'm trying to sell you math. Never mind, I'll be back.